if you don't know Joe Shelly, you're about to, because this guy doesn't prepare and speak very often. So when he does, he really gives you everything. Yeah. He's got like demonstrations and stuff prepared. But Elder Joe, can you go?
They're clapping because Bennett's in my class next semester. He's trying to make sure he does okay. So, all right. Let's get our number. All right. Well, this one, I'm going to get into this right away here because there's a lot I want to get to. And I had a few options that I wanted to share, and the Lord really put me in a place that I said, well, I got to speak out. So that's where we're at here today. I'll take Pastor Ryan's lead on this and to say there are plenty of seats up front. We haven't hurt anybody yet while I'm doing this. I'm going to try not to make today the first time. You will get a better view of what we do later on, though, because I do have a few odd things to do to help us to understand this a little bit. Okay? So I'm going back to school tomorrow. I've been back setting up, but our first formal meeting with the staff is tomorrow. And I do genuinely say I'm not looking forward to the tension that this is going to bring, because we do have contract dispute issues, and it's going to be a lot more difficult than normal. But I'm going to get this a lot from my staff. You know, hi, how was your summer? That's quite a question. So this has been a summer, right, Kelly? This has really been a summer. And there's a lot I could share, and I'm not going to tell stories, because if I tell stories here, nothing else goes on. But there's a lot of testimonies in this, and they're not testimonies of rainbows and unicorns and rabbits kind of bunnies kind of stuff, okay? This is, we've had a tough go at this. A few things surface level that I can share, that stories that kind of illustrate. If you want to hear deeper stuff, we'll talk sometime, okay? But there's stuff that doesn't make it in the sermon that I'm not going to share. But, you know, this last year I discovered that the Lord had given me a gift in the sport of running, and so I got into it. And I've used this to meditate on a lot of verses and to like a spiritual experience to connect with the Lord. And it just kept going and going and going and going and getting, like, I found out he really gave me a gift here. So I was meditating on this, you know, the steps of a man are established by the Lord when he delights in his way. I'm like, this is great. You know, I'm saying this over and over again, flying along on one of these crazy trail runs I do. Though he falls, he shall not be cast headlong, for the Lord upholds his hand. I fall all the time. Like, the way I run is more of a contact sport. Trail running, it's not roads. It's very, very different. You know, I slip and fall all the time. But I took a good one that day, and I sprained an ankle, and it's 6 weeks out today, and I'm just barely able to run again. It took me down a lot farther than I thought it would. And, you know, oh Lord, what have you done? Right? The Lord has cursed me. Right?
Take that back.
So much for my gift, right? Now I'm sitting out on the sidelines doing like stretches with a therapy band. Drives me crazy. Well, he's got a greater purpose here, right? Did some side work this summer. That was great. You know, the Lord blessed me. Everything went well. Now, this stupid job fought me every single step of the way. Simple bathroom upgrades. I'll have this done in 4 days. Well, we still did. But it was quite an experience. It was an experience that involved a random failure in their main plumbing valve, Grable Plumbing, Columbia Water, shutting off the water to 20 condominium homes, a whole neighborhood, and draining them all out before we could fix this lady's house. It was a nightmare. And at the end of the night, the homeowner and I are walking out together. He's like, I can't thank you enough for that. I said, you know, we did what we had to do. I'm with you on this, you know, like, and he's like, that was a nightmare. I said, this is one of those things. I actually said to myself at one point, like, when am I going to wake up from this? This can't be this bad. So, and he said, that was the worst thing that could happen. I said, I don't think so. I said, your 82-year-old mother-in-law was going to have that situation happen to her in the middle of the night sometime. And she can't walk yet because she had hip surgery. That's what really complicated. That's what just took the pressure through the roof on this thing. I said, I think God blessed you tremendously here. That I was in your house when this happened. I had all my stuff here. Grable had a guy there in 20 minutes. Columbia Water had a guy that had nothing better to do and stayed with us the whole time for moral support because he felt so bad for what we were going to have to do. Okay, so, and now she's in a really good position. So it was one of those things. It's just like, oh Lord, what have you done? You know, when is this going to start going the way I want it to? Right? Then there was the hurricane that showed up uninvited to our backcountry camping trip last week. Weather was supposed to be incredible all week. Clouds, sun, perfect. Backcountry, living out of a canoe. Weather just didn't look right Thursday night. Just didn't look right. I grabbed the Boy Scout crew coming through. I said, yo, we have no reception. What's going on? He goes, flood warnings, 4 to 6 inches of rain, next 24 hours, hurricane, we're moving. I'm like, all right. So it was, okay, kids, stay or go. What do we do? Stay. Yep, let's do it. I have never heard, you couldn't hear the rain. You heard this deafening roar on the tent through the night. I have never heard water come down on us like that. We've been in some crazy storms, but I've never heard it for that period of time. As soon as it slacked off, I slid under the kids' hammocks. I'm like, you okay up there? And I'm like hitting the kids, waking them up. And you're like, yeah, we're fine. Why? Just go back to sleep, whatever. I just couldn't let you go. I had to check. It dumped inches and inches and inches of rain. And then it got cold.
Rain got freezing.
Yeah, but it got freezing, didn't it? And we're all wet. In the end, we stayed dry, gear stayed dry. And you guys learned a bit, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like God intended to teach us something, wasn't it? I didn't like it, though. I just didn't like it. Right? So, again, it's full of trials. These are the ones that I'll joke about and kind of make light of here because, you know, it's fine. But the parenting gig is really hard right now. The marriage gig ain't easy. The friends gig has been tough this summer. The health problems some things have surfaced that we were not expecting. It's been a tough go. And I figured if the Lord's put me here, all right, I'm going to preach from that. Okay? And that also means that I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, that's true.
So if I'm going through it and I signed up to preach, right about the time this stuff started happening, I think he's sending us a message and I'm just going to relay it. So there we go. So I'm a teacher. Out myself on that. This is how you probably understand assessments. Now the Bible kind of lumps trials, tests, and troubles into the same bucket. You have to shake the Greek out pretty good to figure out much of a difference. So we can kind of look at these things like, take heart, in this world you will have trouble, I have overcome the world, right? Jesus. But that can also look at, in this world you will have tests. In this world you will have assessments. Teachers, we like the word assessments because we've messed up the word test so badly now. But this is probably how you understand assessments, unless you're a teacher in a classroom who studies these things. And I do a lot of this with students. A whole lot. For the next couple months, I'll just be, passing and failing kids, right? This is how you understand it. There's a required level of achievement. You have to cross the bar, right? You're going to learn, maybe a 30% more than that. And then you're going to have this test, right? And the assessment's going to check to see whether you cross the bar or not. And then you're either going to pass it or you're going to fail. And if you fail it, welcome back to 100 level again next semester, okay? This is the Astronomy 100. Pastor Joe is not here, but I know he's a Millersville guy. He may have taken that class too. That class is that music history or whatever I took. Oh man, one test at the end, boring class. You know how this goes. It was terrible. This is the driver's license test example, right? This is things that we've seen like this. Okay. So this is probably how you understand assessment. This is how most people that are my age were greeted with assessments in school. This is not how I operate. I do, but very, very rarely. This has a unique place. but not much of one. Okay? So this model is what we call the autopsy model of assessment. It's done. You're done. How'd you do? Okay? This is an assessment of learning. It's threatening. It separates those who can from those who can't, right? And it's going to build really high performance over short term. But I can't tell you one whit about astronomy. From that class, I had to pass that, big final exam, right? I can't tell you any of it. And I think you all have had experiences like that where you push real hard, do well on the test, and then afterwards, right? Okay? Doesn't matter. It didn't really matter. Okay? Well, let's look in the scriptures to see an example of this. Okay? Because we are preparing for an assessment of sorts. Let's get into this. This one I think is the Ethan verse, if I remember right. I do like to harass other people when I do this. It's the teacher thing, right? So we're going to read only Hebrews 9:27. Please feel free to turn with me. If you want to ruin it, you can read the verses around it right now, but just stay with me on the fun here. We're going to read only the verse 9, Hebrews chapter 9, verse 27 to start. And it doesn't really matter what version you have, what translation you have of the scripture. It's going to come out pretty similar on this one. So I'll give you a minute to turn there. I don't put them on the screen on purpose to make it work for you a little bit. So, you ready, Ethan?
Yeah.
All right, so Ethan's going to read just 9:27, right? Go for it.
Yeah. And just as it is appointed for man to die once, and after that comes judgment.
That would be the autopsy model of assessment. I encourage Ethan to try the old-time Baptist preacher voice when you say that one. It fits really, really well. Okay? You can picture the guy shaking his hand up here. I've heard that a lot. Right? We die, we're assessed. How'd we do? That doesn't really hold water, though. There's a lot more to it, and most of you know that. But if you're relatively new, many of you may have heard more of that model. That I would call that the working hard to get to heaven model. Okay? The just me and Jesus, I'll be fine model. Okay? I'm saved model. That's dangerous. Like, that's really, really dangerous. Because we look at that, and there's, okay, that can promote a lot of strange things here. But I'm going to go back to Ethan, because he does a great job at this, and I'm going to have him read. Now, let's actually read the context surrounding that from 24 to 28 of Hebrews chapter 9. And there the writer of Hebrews gives us a lot more of a picture of what that final assessment is going to look like. Because the judge is perfect. We've got a bit of a problem here. We should all know this. Go ahead.
For Christ has entered not into the holy places made with hands, which are copies of the true things, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God on our behalf. Nor was it to offer himself repeatedly, as the high priest enters the holy place each year with blood not his own. For then he would have had to suffer repeatedly since the foundation of the world. But as it is, he has appeared once for all at the end of the ages to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. And just as it is appointed for man to die once, and after that comes judgment, so Christ, having been offered once to bear the sins of many, will appear a second time, not to deal with sin, but to save those who are eagerly waiting for him. Praise the Lord.
Well, that changes the fire and brimstone fear of the assessment, doesn't it? Quite a bit. If you caught that, Christ has entered in for us. If you were Jewish, that old Jewish, and understood the priest and everyone at that time when he was written, that meant a lot to you right there. For us, as modern day American believers, that means Jesus paid it all, just like we said. He's paid it all for us. He's passed the assessment for us. He's entered in for us. He's gone ahead of us. He's going to bring us with him. So now what? Party hard, right? It's not, but see now this changes the dynamic, and it changes the dynamic to be a lot more like what I consider to be good education. Lasting education, okay, as a teacher and what I see in that. This is already taken care of, and there is no fear in his perfect love. We do not need to fear the perfect judge who is God. God is now our heavenly Father and has moved from the fear of the Lord to Jesus being our own brother, to Jesus being our own friend. And we get to walk with him in his forgiveness. This is really awesome stuff, right? The scripture is just full of this stuff. I shouldn't be saying anything new. I'm just wrapping it up in a package here to put this together. So let's look at the concept of testing again, because as a teacher, when I looked at this, the concept of assessment is not this. And I saw this right away. It stuck out to me. And this won't necessarily be obvious to you if you don't work on the leading end of the classroom. We can dig around in the Old Testament and find plenty of judgment stuff that was intended for kings at that time, or nations, right? And we do need to be aware that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of all wisdom, right? But we're going to dig around in the New Testament, and there's a lot dealing with troubles and stuff like that. But there's really only two that translate into trials. I thought that was interesting. There's really only two main ones that I'm going to look at. And the first one, we're going to start off with Jesus. And this is not him directly talking about trials, but it's him talking about how we're going to grow. And I'm going to start off with that one. I just kind of felt led to lead in with this one. And I think this is the one Hannah's reading. Go for it.
I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit.
Okay. So Jesus leads this by saying, I'm going to cut off parts of you when you're in me. I'm going to direct that. One of these times, I will bring a wheelbarrow in here with a live bush in it, and I will preach as I cut it. Because the way I learned to do this is really, really fun. And when you have to work with grapes, it's also really fun, because that's what he was talking about. I will direct your energies to where they need to go, to where I want this to grow. Not because if you try to do everything, like a grapevine will do, you get these pitiful little useless things that rot quickly, because all its energy goes everywhere. Okay, I'm out of that rabbit hole.
Yep.
I can't ruin that sermon. Got to save it. Back pocket. But so how is he going to do this? Because he needs to stop certain areas of our life. He just needs to knock them off. Okay? And then other areas of our life, he needs to direct more energy into. Sometimes by resistance, he has to direct more energy into other areas. And he's going to use us in these ways if we let him. So I bet Jesus' half-brother and disciples know. Let's ask that. So James was a half-brother of Jesus. And if you want to ask, if I ever claim deity, please ask my brother, and we'll take care of that in a hurry. So I think James is a reliable person to ask if Jesus is truly the Son of God. So we're going to go to James next. And this one is very, very clear and very obvious. As Christians, I'm sure we've read this before. James 1. And we're going to look at verses just 2 to 4 to get us started there. We're going to try to keep it pretty focused on this. Because James really, really goes to the heart of this quickly. Give us just a minute there, Ben. Team Lab has been very quick, very helpful this morning. I appreciate it. Okay. All right, go for it, Ben.
Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing.
Okay.
Good stuff.
I grabbed that out of the ESV too. It translates in as troubles in the NLT. That's what I mean. The words are very, very close. And we can kind of lump them all together, because what I see as trouble, the Lord sees as a trial, right? I've had a lot of trouble lately. I get it. There's a lot here now. Okay? Count it all joy when you various trials of various kinds. Like, this is one of those that needs to be written on everybody's wall. It just does, doesn't it?
Yeah, no.
This is one of those. And it's not one that I like to hear necessarily when it's not going well. So, as a teacher, I do feel slightly awkward talking this much without involving the class in discussion. But we're going to jump into 1 Peter yet, and then I do want to just ask and let us as a group talk out, volunteer things that we see in these. Because when we face trials, these two verses, these two sets of verses are going to show us pretty clearly similar things. Now, in Peter, I'm going to set this up with a little bit of history. They think that this was probably written right around the time when Nero set all of Rome on fire and blamed the Christians for it. So they were in a lot of trouble right now. And this is why the fiery trial line comes in here, I believe. I'll set that up. They were not having a very nice experience by what the world says at this moment. They were really, really going through it. So Edison's got this to top us off with the scripture. Go for it, man.
Beloved, do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you, as though something stranger happening to you. But rejoice insofar as you share Christ's sufferings, that you may also rejoice and be glad when his glory is revealed.
So if you feel like raising your hand, it makes you feel better, I can call on you, but you can also just yell at me. What do you see in these? Call them out. What do you see? We face trials, shuts us down, gives us opposition, gives us trouble. How are we supposed to face these as a Christian? The world cries, oh, woe is me, make this go away. I want to live happy as long as possible. Nothing really bad happens to me and I'll be fine. As a Christian, we have got to put that on its head. And until we do, we really limit Christ and what he's doing through us. So what do you think? What are you seeing? Anybody struck by anything at this point? Like, I'm actually opening it up for discussion. We're not used to this in churches too much. We just can't. I don't want to just keep going on. What do you think? See who bails me out of the awkward silence. Go, Neil. Help me out.
Ryan said something earlier in the service about we're part of something bigger, and that's that he was talking about just this local church, but some of my meditation lately is that we are part of something way bigger, and it says in 1 John, the one who practices 1 John 3:8, the one who practices sin is of the devil, for the devil has sinned from the beginning. Okay, now the beginning, think about when that is. When I'm talking about something bigger, about God's whole of creation, why we're here, who we are, right? He who practices sin from the beginning, the Son of God appeared for this purpose, to destroy the works of the devil. Now, who was there from the beginning? We're part of something that's like almost, this may not be a great word, cosmic big. The Bible says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers of darkness in heavenly places. That our purpose here, although it's, we can get caught up in the sprained ankle or the shattered ankle, Yeah, I shattered mine.
Yeah.
We can get caught up in a lot of things, and yes, it is difficult, but our whole life is a trial. It's full of trials and testing for something that's much bigger. We're part of something that's much bigger in Christ, if we choose to participate in it, as you said. God is destroying the works of the devil, not just through the crucifixion, the cross, yes, but in a much bigger way that's ongoing, right? Until he's reigning in heaven, after 1,000 years, and now I went down that night.
There's a lot of them around this. Like, I really had to work this out so I didn't rabbit hole this thing. One way or the other, it was really easy to do on this because there's a lot of theological rabbit holes that surround it too. And I really wanted to just keep this, I wanted to try to keep this clean to what I think the Lord wants us to
just there is that.
I love it.
It's bigger.
I love it.
Life is bigger than just my little world.
Do you ever sit down and think about how big this is, what we're participating in, and you actually get scared by how big this is, what we're doing? When you actually get the realization, you get the fear of the Lord, and it's just like, oh my gosh, my kids will do what? For how many generations will what my choice of what I do affect society? I see hundreds of students a year. There's a lot that this is big, and we have to understand that the Lord has a great interest in each one of us and a great love for us. That was really good. Thank you for sharing.
The comfort, it's actually comforting. Yes,
Yeah.
it goes out to scare, but then the comforting thing is I only have one thing to do. I only have my part to play.
Yeah,
Not everything. I only have my part to play
yeah,
in this.
yeah.
You know, the work. This is the work of God. To believe in the one whom He has sent.
Yeah.
Jesus said, "This is the work of God. To believe in the one whom He has sent in my life, and to pass my trials. Not
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank you. That was awesome. That was really meaningful. That's why I love to open it up. If I get a chance, just see if something's moving with somebody here they want to share. I think that definitely spoke to some of us. I mean, it spoke to me up here for sure. Thank you. Neil also teaches as well, so he gets some of this angle. It can get interesting, can't it? Pastor Ryan's jumping around over here. He's got something.
Yeah,
to share.
well, I mean,
go for it.
I was trying to help you out, but if somebody else says that. In verse 13 it says that trials make you partners with Christ.
Yeah. He didn't have it easy.
And
We
so
expect
that encourages me, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. It's what it looks like to be a partner with him. Yeah. Shutting off a whole neighborhood worth of water and going, how are we going to do this? I guess that's how I had to partner with him that evening. You know, it's what it is. Go ahead.
Just from my own experience, before I was truly with the Lord, when something bad would happen to me,
Yep.
I would always be like, why me? What's
Yep.
now that He's with me and I'm with Him, now when something bad happens, I find myself asking, okay, Lord, what am I supposed to get out of this? Which way are you guiding me?
Yeah.
So that's a comfort to go
Yeah.
that direction.
Yeah. Now stuff's going. This is great. And I put a couple up there too. Go ahead. I'll finish with you.
Yeah.
So we still
So-
stay in bounds a bit here. This is great stuff now. Yes.
So I know, like, when I was having my CDL meeting, they always say to us, they were like, so when kids get on the bus, they're the first ones you see.
Yes.
Make sure you smile because they may not be having a good day.
Oh yeah.
And then as soon as you smile at them, you don't know what kind of attitude that gives them, and say good morning to them, and they could just walk past you and not say anything, but you can make their day or do it, you know. So that's
Your
just-
smile and your expression is one of the greatest weapons you use as a teacher. I've intentionally laughed at kids I thought were going to hit me. It works great.
Yeah.
Confused the heck out of them. You know, it gives me just enough time to get that foothold I need to talk them down.
Yeah.
You know, it works really well. It doesn't matter what language and otherwise. Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, as Christians, we're supposed to have joy in the midst of this. Joy is much different than happiness. Happiness is not dragging oneself out of the woods with a damaged foot. But joy can be. Joy underlies the whole process. And the one thing I really want us to walk away from this is the more I looked at it, the more I keep hearing that trials are a resource to us. We are supposed to be embracing them and realizing that this is a resource in our growth. Without them, our growth will stall and will stagnate. Trials are a sign that Christ is actively at work in us, growing us.
Amen.
He cares. Otherwise, we will have the happy life that will really just not lead us anywhere in Him. And ultimately, I question at that point, are you really following Him? Do you really know Him? Have you really accepted Him? Because this doesn't go nicely a lot of times. There's no good enough bar. God's in the business of transformation and restoration. Peter knows that. We need to be in the business of surrendering and repenting and learning. We need to be the students of His trial. Trials are a resource. We've got to look at them that way. And I wish I could say, like, I figured this out. Yeah. Let me know if you do. Just call me sometime. But it is tricky. So, this is what it looks like. to grow as a Christian. Welcome to robotics. Okay, robotics class, when I teach the kids with robotics, I say, robotics, do you remember any of this? Robotics is like, did you hear me say that at all? Okay, I don't know that I would have said it in your class that clearly, but when I teach the camps, I do. Robotics is like walking through a minefield in the dark. You have no idea what blows up on you until it's over. And something different blows up every day. Okay? Because you've got to get a structure right, you've got to get motors and driveline right, then you've got to write code for it, and you've got to get the code to work together with everything else. Everything should work when you start, and nothing does. My kids will come to me and they're like, on Monday, we failed the structure and couldn't get that running. On Tuesday, we couldn't get the motors to run and the driveline didn't fit. And we had to rebuild all this. On Wednesday, now we can't get the code working with any of it. I'm done. We're just failing. So what's wrong with you? On Monday, you figured out the driveline. On Tuesday, you got the motors in the darn thing. On Wednesday, you're going to figure out, you've got your next issue, and by Thursday, the code will work, and you'll realize it doesn't actually work in the ring. Friday, you'll have it running. Every time you did that, you got a bit farther. And the Navy, I stole this one from the Navy when they did a program called failing forward. Every time you experience a challenge, you overcome it, and you become one step closer to being more of what you need to be. Okay? But everything in robotics fails. If you've ever worked with me on that stuff, it is massively frustrating to teach. And stuff even fails on me. And they get to watch me go live on something where I go, I have no idea why this is happening. This should work. Stand back. And just work at it for a while, and I get really frustrated. Bang, head on computer, then turn everything off, turn it back on, and it's fine. That kind of thing. That was camp this year. But each time we have those trials, sometimes trials actually put us in those tailspins. Sometimes they propel us backwards for a bit. But ultimately, they're designed to propel us forward. And no matter what and how messy that looks, we're moving forward in wisdom and capability if we want to follow the Lord in it. Or if we can just lay it down and walk away at any time. Right? But that's not what he wants us to do. And he'll keep after us. Okay, so I teach students how to weld. Here comes the fun stuff. Let's break something. So this assessment popped up on my radar right away when I thought of this. I'm like, okay, let's do a little bit of weld. Let's do a little bit of my weld assessment unit with you guys, so you can see a little bit of what assessment looks like, and then we'll apply it. So the students have to cut some plates like this. They have to bevel them up, and they have to set them out correctly, and then they have to run a weld down this. And if they do this correctly, the final piece of metal is going to be just as strong as the two sides, if not better, if they do it correct, if they do it to the best quality. And then what we do is we have to test it. The hard part about weld assessment is for most, to really know what it can do, you have to break it. So what we do here is I have the kids take their plates like this. They line them up, they tack them up. You guys have seen this. It's ripped right off my Schoology course here. Okay? And I have plates up here and stuff. So again, some of you might want to come up to me talking about this. Yeah, that's great. That's not why I'm here. This is a fun illustration. I'm going to put a tablecloth on this thing, so we still wind up with this really ugly, messed up tablecloth. We're going to still wind up with a finish on the table surface when I'm done with it. So then you run your first pass down this thing, and it's a really small assessment. This is what I call a Shelly original. It's a mock-up of an industry test. And we do the real one, but it takes a lot more time and a lot more skill. So my students in level 2 can pull this off, right, Ethan? Yep. You will. If you do it right, the cool part is that the bottom side of the weld, where there is nothing, actually fuses together with what looks like a little bead there. Now that happens out of my eyesight. I cannot see that happening as I run the main pass. So your first pass is going to be what we call a root pass, and it goes in there. It's going to fuse the bottom of them together. Okay. Your second one here, then you need to cap it off, and this will cover the weld up. But welders also are notoriously can be real show-offs with this. And this is where you want to show somebody your skill level. You want a really, really hot-looking cap pass across this thing. You want this to look really, really good. This is like your signature, okay? On top of this thing, make it look real nice. And you try to get it to burn in on both sides, and there's a lot to it. Then you have to grind it all flat. You major in grind, you minor in weld, right? It takes a while to knock this down to get that whole weld off. The industry one's much bigger too. And then you're going to slice out those 2 strips in the middle because that's where the assessment's going to occur. Okay? Then what we're going to do is we're going to take those and we're going to assess them. And I have a couple ready here today because it's not much fun to just talk about this stuff. I actually could physically carry this in here today, so I got you set up. We're going to use the small rigs on this, but we'll do it anyway. So at this point, you're starting to look at your work. And you've got these strips cut out, and we want to look them over and see whether we think they're going to pass this final test. Okay? So I have to make a couple up. Specifically, when you look at these things, this is how we have to approach a lot of situations in life, too. Stay with me on the punchline. So I marked in Sharpie here on both sides where the weld went through. And I'm going to have anybody who wants to, really, but specifically the lap guys, because I know they've done this. I want them to come up and take a look at these too. And I have a couple of Sharpies here. And as they do it, I'll set up the testing rig. But I want them to look for defects. And I want them to look for porosity in these holes. There's a small amount permitted. There's some in every weld. Can you see any visual porosity? If you do, it increases the chance that the weld will fail. Any cracks? That's a kiss of death. If you see a crack, kid's toasted. It'll never pass. That crack will run the whole way through. Any unfilled areas? You can't get away with much of that. Any undercut? You can actually get away with a fair amount of that, where there's looks like little wagon wheel tracks down the side of the weld. You can actually get away with a fair amount of that and still pass one of these. But I have these two to submit for inspection, visual. So any kids in here that want to come up and see us, I have a couple of Sharpies. If you think one of them is going to fail, I want you to put a little frowny face on it, okay? I'll let them look at it for a minute. I'll get this set up.
This is the time you can actually
Now, you stand back because that will fall over till I come. That's the injury we go. All right. Then we're going to bend them.
Looks like a happy face.
You know, I've never seen it that way.
Sorry.
I've done this for 20 years. I've never seen it quite the way you just did. So it must be pretty good. Now, I'm going to tell, okay, kids, I'm going to throw one more in there. One of those welds is going to ride this thing and bend like a horseshoe, and one of them's going to shatter like a piece of glass. One is catastrophically failed. One of them, I'll tell you what, this is infinitely harder than passing the test. It's making these examples. To hide in a quarter-inch weld, to hide a fatal defect like that is really annoyingly hard to do. I figured it out over the years. Passing the test is not that rough. One of those is going to shatter like a piece of glass, and one of them is going to bend. Can you tell? Take a guess. Smiley face, or put a frowny face on the one that's going to die quickly. And the other thing, as an instructor, is I really never know that this is going to do exactly what I want it to till it's over. I made these up 2 years ago. I just grabbed 2 of the samples. You ready, guys?
Yup.
Yes.
All right. So what we do, this is a really light little rig for doing this. The bigger one we have on a 20-ton shop press. Oh, we think this one's going? The kids say that number 1 is going to make it here, and number 2 is not going to make it. And I'll tell you, when I look at these things, I can't tell. I don't even know which one is which. I told you I did this like 2 years ago. I don't even know which one's going to break and which one's going to go. I have no idea. I can't see that. There's ways I could tell, but I don't have that means here. So we're going to see how well this worked. And what are you doing here? No, he wants to break it, and I didn't give him permission to do it. So, for like a little cleaner. So, if this is like super, super tame. This isn't going to go bouncing off the walls, okay? There is a way to do that, and I'll make sure we don't get anywhere close to that point. But I do want you to stay like back at the first row of chairs so everyone else can see, please, okay? I will be a good technology educator, and I'll put my safety glasses on for today's demonstration, so we're good to go. All right, so what we do is we align this. Let's do number one first, and let's do face side is most likely to give me the effect I'm looking for. So I'll give away a little bit of my magic trick here. Okay, so we set this in, and if you can't see, what we did was we parked the two Sharpie lines right on top of that ramp because we want the force to go straight into the welded surface. We don't want that to go into the surrounding metal. Okay, I'll put a little pressure on the bottle jack, and then I'm going to stand over here so he can't flip the table over. Go ahead. This table is not exactly an ideal workbench. Is it breaking? I'm getting nervous. I did it, by the way. When I say stop, you will, right? Okay. The trick is if he goes past this part, I had one fly out at me once. He's nowhere close. I have my head in line with this to show you how to stop. Okay. So that was fun, doing the demonstration in front of the class. And I looked over at the kids and I hit it a couple, two extra times. Pops out of there, shoots a chunk out of my hand as it bounces off me, blood everywhere. It was great. So that one, you darn kids got it right.
Yeah.
You got it right.
Do we have to do the other
And there's no way you could tell. Hang on. Look a second on the face. All right. So, hang on. Gotta start that little bugger up in there. Yep. So we're bending it with the cap pass side. We call that the face side. We're bending it with that side up on this. Just again, there's a little. I'm tipping the balance in my favor of getting the right result on this because I know where that failure is going to occur a little more. Send it. No, it's not breaking. Wait a minute. It's not breaking.
Yes, it
Are you
is.
serious?
Yes, it is.
All right, hold on. Keep going. Keep going. All right, well it's very possible those are my two successful ones, and my other one is the third one. So that one made it, and not only did it make it, made it really, really well. So that surprised me. This might be. Well, check this one out, everybody. Is there a flaw in that one?
Oh, that one definitely has it.
Oh,
This might have been one. Where?
There's a line there.
You see a little bit of a line there? Okay. You can see a difference in where it was welded. All right, let's bend this one. I'm telling you, the fatal error is harder to do than the successful bend, by far. Hang on, wait. Let me get it. Let me make sure it's on there. So we don't wreck anything. We've broken this bender too often. Send it. That's it. Money. Okay, so I just forgot what they were. You have to give me a little grace on that one. All right, done. That didn't even take it. Yeah, I like the pop. It doesn't always do that. That was good. Praise the Lord. I didn't need that. I want this to go. Look at that.
Oh, wow, that's
Like, not even made an effort.
Wow.
Apparently 3 was the one that was going to blow up, and I didn't know it.
Yay, it's breaking down.
That's good. I brought that. I'm like, oh, do I really want to bring that? I'll set an extra in there. Just thought I knew what I'd done. Look at that. If you guys are close enough to see that, there's no integrity inside that thing at all. It just right through. The center immediately separated. The trick is I'll set an aluminum rod down on the steel after pass 1, and I'll go over that. And it'll still run the pass across the top, but the aluminum burns in between the two and ruins them from actually fusing together. So that's my 330 seconds aluminum rod is my secret, guys. That's how you do that.
But how often does that happen where you think your plan is set?
After 20 years, less than it used to. But I've had a few of them where I just looked at the kids and went, I have no idea what just happened. I'm going to get back to you tomorrow. You know, I've had a couple of those in my time. You know, it's just when you do demonstrations like this, it's not like teaching English that works, you know. Sometimes stuff just happens. I've gotten hurt mildly. You know, stuff just go to do the standard demonstration and the belt just explodes in my face. You know, it's going to happen to somebody. I just happen to be the lucky one to be up at the time. So now this one, that was fun, I hope. Now I want to land the plane on this and make it stick, okay? These demonstrations to me mean a lot more than words ever do. The difference, this looks like that first for all as a point of the die and then comes judgment, right? There it is. One go. You get it right, you get it wrong, right? That's not it. And that's not how this works. A successful student, just as a Christian who is truly following the Lord, is going to see every step of this process as an equally important assessment. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. I watch this year after year. I watch this with hundreds of kids. The successful student is going to see every step of the process as an equally important assessment. The unsuccessful kid just wants to pass the test and is focused on the well. I doubled my student success rate by checking them at one point. Do you remember, Ethan, what I signed off on?
Was that for the first well?
Yeah, I'm really making him dig in the archives here. He's being a good sport about it. For the well, I'm going to run back here quickly. You know where they all fail? Here. They all fail in plate alignment. Almost every one of them. Why? Because it's easy. That's why they fail. They misalign their plates, and they go to well, and their plates are like this. Just a hair. More than a 32nd of an inch, you're toasted.
Yeah.
Because when you get into your grinding, you can't take that much off. You're only permitted 20 thousandths from the side, which is actually a heck of a lot. But it's not if you misalign your plates. So that is where they fail. They don't get that root opening right. They hack their way through it. I don't know why. I show them how to do it. I do it in front of them. There's a video of how to do it. They still get it wrong. But don't we? Mm-hmm. It's the stuff that we see that doesn't matter. Like whether we've just had a long, frustrating day, like just go to bed. Forget devotions tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Right? Okay? I'm saying that from a lot of experience. But this is where they all fail it. They fail it before they ever weld it up. They fail it before they start. Three equal areas. They have to set their machine up correctly, they have to design and join correctly, and they have to execute the technique correctly. Any one of those three will fail you just as dead as the other two. And if you don't get it right, you'll never get there. So we need to be that first student. The bend test only affirms what the student already knows. And I look at the kid, I'm like, yawn, just do it. You passed. I know it from the beginning. You passed. I saw it the whole way through. You had it right. There's no way that'll break. We almost never get a surprise. Unless the teacher gets the wrong one for the demo. The unsuccessful student is nervous as all get out about that assessment. I'm just trying to pass. I'm just trying to pass. I'm just trying to be good enough. I'm just trying to get accepted when I die. Right? That will fail you every time because you overlook every little assessment that leads to fatal errors in the process, and you never learn anything the whole darn time. You get to the end. Okay? I just hope this passes. So I'm going to leave it on that. I think a lot of us are there. And I had down here too, feel free to move my stuff out. I had down here too, when you look at the sheep and the goats, when Christ makes a final separation of those who are his from those who are not his, that sounds like that final judgment too. What does he reference? Every single time they didn't care for someone that was him throughout their lives. All the judge does, simply look at the overwhelming evidence one way or the other. Are we willing to be tried by Him throughout our lives and allow Him to perfect us? Are we willing to discover the joy in it when it gets hard? And are we willing to really let Him have His way in us when it isn't fun? And when it gets difficult? Are we going to look at the small things we do? I think that really met your message there, Neil. Are we going to look at the small things that we do as cosmically important in this process that the journey the Lord has us on? Okay? So, I put these two verses up here. I'm gonna land this on this right now. But what I felt in my heart to see this close was that we be open to praying for one another where we are right now. We'll be open to supporting one another where we are right now. And if you are willing to turn to the person next to you and be open to sharing, let the Spirit lead you how deep this goes, right? But just sharing what the Lord has you working your way through right now, right? And be willing to pray together. There'd be nothing I'd rather see more. And what we often struggle to pray into these situations for other people. So I put the answers on the board for you. I put 2 slam dunks up there, right? We can declare over one another today, Romans 8:28, that He will make everything work together for good. No matter what it is, if we're willing to surrender to Him and be called by His purpose, He'll use it to His glory. And 8:37, Romans chapter 8 is just a great place to go digging around when it gets hard. Romans 8:37, just declare, we have overwhelming victory. In our difficulties, our struggles, are things we can't overcome yet. We have overwhelming victory through Him. And He's already leading us in victory through those things that we're struggling at over and over and over again, right? So I don't want to fluff this out with a bunch of words like teachers will do at the end of lessons a lot of times to fill the extra time. I want to just let you folks to do as the Spirit leads you to do. Your kids are over there. If you have them, it's probably good for you to pick them up at some point. But we have, it's 11:40. We have some time. If you're willing to pray together right now, there'd be nothing that would make me feel like the Spirit has made this valuable to us more so than that. If you want to come up front and pray with Pastor Ryan, myself, Jody, and Kelly, we're all around. And we'll jump in and pray with you. If you've got one of these like moments where you just gotta get something out before the Lord, come on up. We'd love to do that. But I'd just like to see us each be willing to pray for one another here as the day ends. Be a little bit vulnerable here and lift one another up in prayer. Thank you. See you.